Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. I never liked sleeping alone. Even when the fights left our bed cold and silent, I'd still leave a space for him, just in case. But tonight was different. There was a strange heaviness in the air, like the house itself was holding its breath. I pulled the blanket closer, letting the silence fill every corner of the room. My eyes refused to close, and my heart, despite everything, still listened for the sound of his footsteps. My name is Rachel. I'm 34, a graphic designer by day and a woman quietly falling apart by night. My husband, Dean, used to be the one person I could feel safe with. We had a language only we understood, a brush of the hand, a half-smile across the room. But lately, that language had turned to static. Misunderstandings. Missed calls. Missed touches. It's been weeks since he last looked at me the way he used to. You know, like I was his whole world. They say marriages die in silence, not storms. I didn't see it coming, really. Maybe I just didn't want to. We still lived in the same house, ate at the same table, but somehow, we become strangers who shared the same last name. Tonight, I was determined to sleep without waiting up. No more checking the clock. No more hoping the door would creak open. I needed to be strong. Independent. Numb, even. So I laid down, facing the window, letting the moonlight sketch shadows across the bedsheets. But just as I began to drift, I felt it. A hand. Faint. Familiar. Sliding under the blanket, fingers brushing the edge of my panties like a forgotten memory waking up in the dark. I froze. My breath hitched, not from fear, but from confusion. Because Dean wasn't supposed to be here. He had stormed out 3 hours ago. And I hadn't heard him come back. Was it him? Or was I dreaming him into being? My body remembered him even when my mind screamed caution. That's the thing about history, it lingers in your bones. And sometimes, it lies to you. I turned slowly, my heart pounding, lips trembling with words I couldn't form. And there he was, or someone who looked like him. His eyes weren't angry this time. They were full of something else. Regret? Desire? Or was it betrayal dressed in softness? Before I could speak, he whispered something that made my entire world pause. And just like that, everything changed. I didn't move. His hand rested there, barely touching me, like he was testing the line between memory and permission. My breath was caught somewhere between fear and longing. I wanted to turn around and see him, really see him, but part of me wasn't sure I could handle what I'd find in his eyes. So much had changed between us, yet moments like this made it hard to tell whether the fire was dying, or just buried under the ash. Dean? I whispered, finally. A pause. His voice was low, rough. I couldn't sleep. I missed this. This? My body? Our bed? Or the version of us that didn't feel like strangers navigating a broken bridge? His touch was no longer moving. Just there. Still. Like a question. We used to be wild for each other. Couldn't keep our hands off even in the middle of a fight. But something started fading a few months ago. It wasn't a dramatic breakup or a secret text message, it was more like a slow drift. Late-night work calls. Forgotten kisses. Half-meant apologies. I used to wait for him by the window. Now I barely glanced up when he walked through the door. I turned around slowly, face to face now, eyes locked in the dim light. He looked tired. More than tired, haunted. Like whatever he'd been carrying had finally caught up to him. Why are you really here? I asked, softer than I meant to. His lips parted but no answer came. Just silence. And in that silence, I saw it all, the guilt, the hunger, the fear. Maybe not of losing me, but of admitting he already had. He cupped my cheek, tentative, like he didn't quite remember how. I didn't pull away. That was the part that scared me most. Because despite everything, part of me still wanted to believe we weren't beyond repair. His thumb traced a line just below my eye, and for a second, it felt like a memory trying to come back to life. Like we were two people in a photograph, frozen in time before things fell apart. But the questions between us hadn't gone anywhere. And I wasn't sure what his touch meant anymore. Was it a goodbye? Or a beginning? Dean's fingers lingered on my cheek just a second too long, long enough for questions to bloom inside me like bruises. His touch used to be familiar, automatic. But now, it felt calculated. Like he was trying to remember how to make me feel something. Or maybe, how to make himself feel something. I didn't lean into it. I didn't pull away either. We lay in the half-darkness, quiet and too close to be casual, too far to be whole. Where were you tonight? I asked finally, voice low but steady. He blinked. Just once. Out. Thinking. That pause between his words told me more than the words themselves. Thinking? About what? About me? About us? Or about someone else? I looked at his jawline, the faint stubble he hadn't bothered to shave, the way his eyes avoided mine now. And something inside me began to ache. I had seen the shift long before this moment. The extra time on his phone. The way he turned its screen down. The small, impersonal excuses. But I never said anything. Maybe I didn't want to confirm what I already feared. I used to be everything he looked for in a room. Lately, I felt like background noise in his life. And then there was the woman at his office. Emily. You don't miss the way a husband talks about another woman when you've once been the woman he couldn't stop talking about. The way her name softened his voice. The way he mentioned her jokes like they were private treasures. I never asked outright. But I watched. Not obsessively, quietly. Like waiting for a storm you know is coming but still hope might pass. Now, with him lying beside me like nothing had changed, the silence screamed louder than any confession. His fingers brushed my arm absent-mindedly, like he was searching for warmth, for comfort. I didn't know whether it was guilt that brought him back tonight or a habit he couldn't fully shake. I turned away slowly, facing the wall. He didn't follow. Maybe he knew the distance had become more than just physical. Somewhere in the house, the wind rattled a loose windowpane. I imagined the front door he might have left open. Or the one in his heart he might have closed long ago. Dean shifted behind me, and I felt his breath near my shoulder. I still love you, he said quietly. But it didn't feel like a vow. It felt like an apology. And that hurt more than anything else. The silence between us was a living thing now, breathing, shifting, pressing its weight into every inch of the bed. Dean hadn't moved. Neither had I. But I could feel something rising between us, like a storm gathering without rain. I still love you. His words hung in the air like a thread waiting to snap. I closed my eyes, letting the warmth of them sink in, even though they arrived far too late. Then why do I feel alone with you? I whispered. He exhaled sharply behind me. I don't know how to fix us anymore, Rachel. His voice cracked on my name. I turned to face him again. This time slower, not out of curiosity, but out of desperation. His eyes found mine, and for the first time in a long time, I saw the man I married, the man who used to make my heart race just by walking into a room. I've been waiting, I said. For you to notice that I was fading. That we were. My voice trembled. But you looked everywhere except at me. Dean swallowed hard, his hand reaching out, fingertips grazing mine. It was a fragile touch. As if we both knew that anything more would shatter the moment entirely. I did notice, he murmured. But I didn't know how to reach you anymore. A tear slipped from the corner of my eye, and his thumb caught it, gently, instinctively. That single gesture broke something open in both of us. Not rage. Not blame. Just raw, unfiltered ache. He leaned closer, forehead pressing gently to mine. For a breathless second, we just stayed like that, eyes closed, skin to skin, two broken people still tethered by something neither of us could name. I don't want to lose you, he said softly. Even if I already have. The words landed with all the weight of truth. My chest tightened, my fingers laced with his, and every nerve in my body screamed for resolution. One kiss, one touch, anything to make the ache go away. But nothing came. Just the echo of everything we once were. And everything we might never be again. Dean's breath was warm against my skin, our fingers still barely laced together. And yet, beneath that fleeting moment of connection, something in me was bracing, waiting for the unraveling I sensed was just around the corner. He hesitated. I felt it in the way his hands stilled, in the flicker of his gaze. I need to tell you something, he said, his voice low, careful. The phrase landed like a weight on my chest. I pulled back just enough to see his face in the slant of moonlight. That look, tight jaw, avoiding eye contact, one hand flexing on the blanket, it was the same expression he wore when he confessed to crashing my car and hiding it for a week. Only this wasn't about a dented fender. You're scaring me, I said. He sat up, raking a hand through his hair. His silhouette was tense against the bedroom's shadows. It wasn't just work keeping me late these past few months. The breath caught in my throat. My mind raced. Emily. Of course it was Emily. All the signs had pointed to her. I was ready to hear it. Or maybe I wasn't. But at least I thought I knew the shape of the betrayal. But then he said something I didn't expect. It's not who you think. I stared at him. Then who? He looked back at me, and for the first time that night, I saw guilt, yes, but something else, too. Fear. Hesitation. As if what he was about to say might break something that couldn't be fixed. She's someone you know. He paused, jaw tightening. Madeline. My stomach turned. Madeline was my closest friend. My confidant. The woman I had poured every tear into over coffee and late-night texts. She'd held my hand while I cried about Dean pulling away. She told me I deserved better. And all along, she was the one. I didn't mean for it to happen, he said quickly. It started after one of those nights when we fought. She reached out to check on me. We talked. Then it blurred. I sat there, numb. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. The betrayal wasn't just from him, it was from someone I trusted with the most broken parts of me. I couldn't even cry. I just stared. And now? I asked. Is it over? Dean didn't answer right away. That silence told me everything. And yet, the worst part? A piece of me still wanted him to choose me. Still wanted this not to be real. I turned away, but this time the space between us wasn't quiet. It was screaming. Dean stood, pacing the edge of the bed, running his hands through his hair like he could undo the truth he just spilled. I remained sitting, my back rigid, breath shallow. My heart was breaking in slow motion, first from the betrayal, then from the realization that I wasn't surprised. I'm sorry, he said, barely audible. I didn't come here tonight to confess. I came because I realized something. I laughed under my breath, bitter and hollow. Realized what? That you want to come home to the woman you betrayed after spending your nights in someone else's arms? His voice caught. No. I realized that. I never left. I turned sharply to face him. What? I thought I did, he admitted. Thought I fell for Madeline. But when she told me she was leaving her husband for me, I couldn't go through with it. Because the only face I saw when I closed my eyes was yours. Even when I was lying to myself. My tears finally came, slow and quiet. My chest ached with both relief and devastation. The love was still there, but now, tangled in too much damage. I don't know if that's enough anymore, I whispered. He sat beside me again, gently taking my hand. Then let me prove it. Let me be what I should have been before all of this. We stayed like that, silent, heavy with history. Maybe love really did survive betrayal, but it never came back untouched. And then came the twist. Before either of us could speak again, my phone lit up. A message. One I wasn't expecting. It was from Madeline. He told you, didn't he? He always chooses you. Even when he doesn't want to. Attached was a photo. Not of Dean and Madeline. But of Madeline, sitting across from me, laughing over coffee last week. The day she said she was done chasing what wasn't hers. I stared at the screen, chills rushing down my spine. Dean, I said slowly, she's not just in love with you. He frowned. What do you mean? I looked up, my voice trembling. She's in love with me, too. The room was still, just the faint hum of the city outside, and two hearts that didn't quite know where to land. Dean looked at me, his face pale, caught between confusion and disbelief. The truth had twisted everything, not just between him and me, but between me and her. Madeline's message wasn't just a cruel confession. It was something deeper, more complex. She loved me. And maybe, in some quiet, hidden way, I had loved her too. Not romantically, not clearly, but in the kind of emotional intimacy that blurred lines and bred dangerous closeness. While I was mourning the loss of Dean, I leaned into Madeline's comfort. Her laughter. Her presence. And in my brokenness, I didn't see how she was breaking, too. I set the phone down. The silence between Dean and me was now soaked in something new, understanding. This is more than just about you and her, I finally said. Dean nodded slowly, eyes searching mine. I know. We talked through the night, really talked. Not as husband and wife clinging to what's left, but as two people brave enough to name what went wrong. We confronted our failures, our blind spots, our unmet needs. And for the first time in a long time, the conversation wasn't about blame. It was about truth. By morning, the sky outside was soft with gold. Dean stood near the window, hands in his pockets, looking both lighter and heavier. I don't know what happens next, I said. He turned to me, tired but sincere. Maybe we don't need to know. Maybe we just start from where we are. And that's what we did. We didn't rush back into us. We gave space. Therapy. Honesty. We rebuilt slowly, this time without hiding our pain behind polite dinners or forced kisses. As for Madeline, I never saw her again. I sent her a letter, not out of anger, but out of closure. I forgave her, even if it took time. Because sometimes the deepest betrayals come from those who love us the most, but don't know how to carry it. This story isn't about choosing the perfect ending. It's about what happens after the breaking. It's about healing, the quiet kind, that doesn't come with grand gestures, but with small, everyday efforts to be better, to love better. Because love isn't just about feeling something strong. It's about staying honest, when it's easier to lie.